welcome everybody. Another episode of Hot Zone. I promise we're going to be bringing y'all guests in soon. It's just with everybody's schedules. Actually, I'm blaming it on UT. I'm blaming it. It's your fault.
Why was it my fault?
Man, and it was the same thing when I was in 40 hour. It's just harder. It's harder. We got to, a lot of times when we got weekends and stuff, that's the only time we really got to shoot. So we're trying to get you guys some people. I talked to my boy Travis, head coach of Robstown. I know we told you last time we'd be bringing him on, but hopefully next week we're going to try and set it up for Sunday. Of course, him, people don't realize, he's the head football coach, but then they go right into basketball season.
Other things, yeah.
Yeah, so he's got a lot going on his plate. But, pretty much everybody, I think, is out of the playoff race except for, I think, Sinton for football. I think Sinton's the only one left. Maybe Refugio. I haven't kept up. But, yeah, me and T were just talking, man. Time flies, I was looking at some of my notes that we were taking for this episode, and I couldn't see them. And I had to go get my glasses, and I was like, what did you say? You said it happens overnight?
It happens overnight. One day you can see, and the next day you can't.
You're blind, so that's what happened to me. But thank you guys for continuing to tune in and support the program, support the podcast. We're getting a lot of love out there, so appreciate it. But today we're gonna kind of touch on like a serious topic here. And I think this topic is something that I feel personally, if you're progressing in life, it's something that you're going to face. No, it can happen early on. It can happen later in life. But I think if you truly are trying to advance at some point in your life, you're gonna face this topic. And the topic we're gonna be talking about is outgrowing relationships through life, right? It doesn't always necessarily have to involve drama or anger or resentment or, some kind of bad falling out. Sometimes it's just the way life takes you, right? And we're going to, now sometimes it does involve those other things.
Sure.
And we're going to talk about that because I think separating yourself from a toxic environment or a toxic culture that maybe you once had, is definitely needed if you truly are going to reach your 100% potential, right, in life. This is an important topic because, it involves maturity, it involves growth. Your priorities change, your career changes, life happens, and all those things are affected by the relationships that you have around you, right? What does it necessarily mean to outgrow a relationship? I mean, what does that mean to you?
So,
well, you know what? Let me cut you off real quick. I just asked you, but I'm going to ask you, have you experienced relationships that you've kind of outgrown?
Sure. And right when you start talking about it, I'm thinking like professional and then personal, like, at work, people that you run around with, and work with and, get close with. And our dynamic's a little different with work because you wind up getting the relationships are real strong because we spend so much time together.
Right.
And then of course in your personal life, like friends that you hang out with, which for me happens to be a lot. It's merged. It's like they're mixed. Those two families are mixed because I hang out with people that I work with. Not so much work with every day, but like we work for the same organization. But no, definitely. And the one that resonates right off the bat is, and that you could relate to in our field is that when you start this career, you have an academy, and so that everybody's together in one group.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And so you might develop close bonds in those hard times, studying, working out, doing those things. You wind up, being close to certain of those individuals, and then right whenever you guys graduate and you get turned out, then you wind up on different shifts.
Yeah.
So then, you won't see that person or work with that person, and they wind up, going down one road where they're, hanging out with a group that they work with probably most likely, and you go down another. But oftentimes too, even with those relationships like that, it's like you run into them on a trade or on an overtime shift or something, and you guys just pick up right where you left off.
Right.
But you're not with them all the time like you were, to where we had a study group that we were always all together studying, and actually the few of us wound up on the same shift, but then over the years, promotions and shift trades or whatever, and you wind up going different ways. But yeah, that's what comes to mind right off the bat. Professionally, people that I hung out with when I first came in, as to who I hang out with now, and then also as you move up, and if that's what you decide, you wind up kind of running those circles with the people that you're more like your colleagues that you kind of like throw bounce stuff off of back and forth on, when you need advice for work. So that's the one thing that comes to mind for sure.
Yeah. I think, like we said, it doesn't always have to involve some kind of negative connotation or have some kind of negative connotation behind it. It doesn't always have to be a falling out of sorts. Sometimes it's just simply the environment that you're in at the time, right? I know for me, fighting a lot, I didn't actually have a lot of those closer fire department relationships where I was hanging out with guys on a regular basis. I did make those I did have those relationships, but for me it was more fighting. And why? Because I was doing that 24/7. I mean, we traveled together, we watched UFC fights together. Like, that was what I did. So
Trained
I didn't
together.
And it's crappy because I hate to say this, but I didn't really have time to hang out with the fire department guys. It was more of a convenience. Right. And it's funny sometimes, because I think sometimes you have to differentiate outgrowing from giving up on relationships, right?
Yeah, it's not synonymous.
Definitely not synonymous. There's going to be times where there are those relationships that you kind of just got to step away from, because you recognize that you're no longer doing the things that these people are doing, and you realize that if you continue to put yourself in those situations, then it's going to be a hindrance to your progress. Right. But then there's also other times where, you just simply outgrow it. And you had mentioned it. I got really good friends. One of my best friends that I've known the longest since I was in first grade. Shout out to Gabe Garcia, GG, Iceman. We used to call him back in the day. But he is somebody that, man, I won't talk to for a couple months, and then we'll just randomly go have lunch, catch up, see how the family's doing. I mean, that is the cool thing about social media now, though. Yeah. Is that you're able to keep up with everybody.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But I think that's also kind of, it's kind of...
it can be a hindrance where you feel like I'm still connected when really we're not.
Exactly.
Because it's really that personal conversation, the personal, like, how are you? How's your family? Like that connection that you're missing out on. You're just liking their pictures,
Exactly.
But there is something to that too, that people get that little dopamine hit every time.
Oh yeah. We've talked about that before. You know what I mean? But I think there's certain signs that you definitely are outgrowing relationships that you kind of want to keep aware of, because I think sometimes you don't recognize it until maybe something negative does happen, right? Until there's a big blow up or a bad fight. I know I've gone through it. I'm going through it right now in my personal life with certain friends or family. And, the fact of the matter is, I'm not the person that I was 2-3 years ago. I'm not the person that I was last year. Yeah. Especially as I get closer to God. And, sometimes that can get misinterpreted or misconstrued, because people think like, oh, he's too good to do these things. And it's like, no, I just realized doing those things isn't what I'm supposed to be doing. Yeah. You continue to do them. I encourage you not to. Yeah. But I'm also not going to be here coming down on you for doing it.
Yeah,
right.
I'm just not.
I'm just not there.
Those patterns you want to recognize that that's not what you want. So.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think. Some of the like emotional signs that you can look for when you're dealing with those, and I've experienced this, is sometimes you're talking to somebody and the conversation feels forced, right? It doesn't flow like in a natural pattern the way it used to. You kind of hit those moments where you don't really know what to say to each other, and you're just kind of there. A big one that I've experienced, and more so my wife than me, and she'll probably get mad at me for throwing it out there, but I'm not saying who it was. I'm just saying there are certain friends that only would call her when they're at their lowest moments, right? When they're struggling, when they're going through guy problems, and that's usually what it is. So they're making bad choices. They
need something from her, need some support.
And so the thing about that is, what does it do? It's she doesn't mind giving it and volunteering her energy, but in reality, it's like you're not calling her to go have lunch and hang out on the regular. You're not calling her to see how she's doing. You're just calling to suck everything out of her. You're calling because you need the emotional support that she's to give you.
It's a tough one.
And it is hard, because I've been in a situation where somebody is constantly like, I'm constantly like, come on, man, you gotta change your ways. You gotta do this right. You gotta stop messing around here. You know, and it's always the same thing. So then, you know, now thankfully I've gotten to a point as a man, being mature enough to be like, look, you need to fix this. Like, you're not doing anything that's benefiting me. All this is doing is kind of, I've told you the same thing over and over. I ain't got nothing new to tell you. Mm-hmm. Like, you know what you need to do. I've already been that shoulder for you. And I think that's a hard part for some people when they're dealing with these relationships is you've got to know when to cut it off, because at some point it starts to drain and suck the life out of you. Right. Yeah. When you get those phone calls and you're with your family and you got to step outside to talk to somebody for 30 minutes because they're telling you the same old sob story. It's like you could be putting that energy into somebody else that's actually going to listen to you. And that's where I've gotten. I realize for me, it's not worth my time pouring into people. And this is something that you got to be careful with, especially as a coach or a leader, is you can pour into people and get dejected because they're not listening and taking the advice and actually like holding on to what you're saying. And it can make you kind of just not want to pour into anybody else, or you've poured into people and that loyalty, especially in jiu-jitsu, right? Yeah. You pour into people and then all of a sudden they jump ship because you have a disagreement, or, you know, they don't see a certain, situation the same way you do. And it's like, man, I've invited you into my house. I've, spent time talking to you, trying to train extra, and there was a point where I was like, you know what? I'm just not going to have those relationships with anybody. Mm-hmm. But then I realized that if I do that, I'm really defeating the purpose or I'm not going to be able to fulfill the purpose that God's putting me in these situations for, to help people. Because that's what coaching is. Yeah. Right. And so I think we got to, it's very tricky on how to navigate those things. You can't get discouraged from that. But you do have to pay attention to some of those emotional and mental signs, red flags, let's call it, that are out there, so that you don't end up in these, situations where you're dealing with extra stress or strain, because ultimately you got to take care of yourself first. Yep. Right. There's also like behavioral signs that are different. Some people may be stagnant in life and not really wanting to do anymore. I mean, I think one of the reasons me and you have such a good relationship is because we're both guys now in our 40s that have always tried to push their limits physically, right? And not just been content with being mediocre, so to speak, and being like every other 40-year-old guy that's out there that just kind of seeks comfort and stops moving. And so I think that that's something where I don't really hang out with people that, are just kind of sitting on the couch and not, want to just drink beer all the time or whatever, because our goals are different, you know. Lifestyle's different. Our habits are different.
Well, and it's very simple. It's like, if you don't have a lot in common with that, if you don't have the same interests, then it's going to be, like you said, the conversation could be forced, or it's not natural to where it's like, we want to do the same things or talk about the same things, or we're into the same things.
And you just said it right there. We're not into the same things, but sometimes those things are not just hobbies. Sometimes those things are ethics. Morals, beliefs. And when your values no longer align with somebody in the same way, then that, I think, is probably the biggest red flag to where you need to distance yourself. Now, sometimes you can talk to people, distance yourself, and it's like a light bulb that goes off for them. They don't get upset or feel judged. They simply see you wanting to better yourself, and it actually sparks something in them and encourages them to kind of follow that path, right? I've seen it with some of my close friends. I've got really good friends, Isaac Garcia and Alyssa. They're actually expecting their first baby here together within the next few weeks, I believe.
Congratulations.
So, but their thing is like, man, 4 years ago, we were just out there partying. Drinking, hanging out, going to the bars, staying out to 2 a.m, like shutting them down. And then they started getting into, and it was really Isaac that started getting into church. And man, they have just completely transformed their lives by the grace of God. And it's been awesome to watch, because now they've actually got this Bible group that they have that meets. They call it the Herd. And there's like 100 people that meet on a regular basis. Wow. And these guys aren't pastors. They're not ordained ministers. They're simply Christians that have provided a testimony of what God can do in your life.
Well, like we said before, they have a shared interest, and they want to share that with
everybody
other people
else,
that
right?
See the same things they do.
And so, but that being said, they're no longer in the same circles that they were running in. They're no longer doing the same things. And I know that there's some people that probably look at them and think, oh, they think they're better, or they think they're whatever, they're self-righteous, or they're judgmental, and they're not at all. No. It's just they have their foundation, their belief system, and they aren't going to compromise that to make anybody else feel better, because there's only one that they're worried about satisfying, right? And so I've experienced that when, something like I'm not going to drink, or I've been chastised from it. I've been, oh, you're so boring, or you're this or you're that. And I'm like, man, you do you. I'm not sitting here judging you for being a reckless drunk. I'm just not going to take part in it, Yeah.
And it happens a lot too with bodybuilding, where you're on a strict.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not like you can just go eat fried food or what. I mean, you have one cheat day, but cheat meal, not even a day. And so, we've experienced that, not for me, but for Amy, to where she doesn't, during season, she doesn't drink. There's no going out to eat. Has a very strict, diet. So it could be looked at like, you'll never hang out, or you never go with us. And I used to kind of ask her about that too, because I'd be like, why don't you just go? Like, it's still, we can still, have like fellowship, like enjoy our friends. But you have to understand that, she's going through this struggle of being in season and sticking to that diet. And it's like sitting there at, a great restaurant with all this awesome food.
Yeah, it's not easy.
It's going to be torture.
I mean,
so it's kind of like out of sight, out of mind. You just, you're not going to go put yourself in front of,
You're sacrifice. She's sacrificing.
Yeah.
Right.
So
you're making the sacrifices to obtain a goal that you have, and you're not always going to be chasing this goal forever. So while you're doing it, you're going to give yourself 100%.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what I did with fighting. I mean, it was the same situation.
Yeah. So with cutting weight, same thing. And it's so funny that it's the perspective, right? Because you kind of alluded to it with the drinking, and the same thing with the diet. It's like, I don't know why there's a feeling of like, when you're hanging out with people, that they want you to be like them, or for whatever reason. Like, if you're not drinking, like, why is that a problem to them? You can drink all you want, like, but I'm not, like, that bothers you.
I don't think it's everybody though. I think it's people. Genuinely, what I think it is people that know they're doing wrong and feel convicted because you're changing the way you're living.
Yeah.
And it's making them feel guilty about living the lifestyle they're living.
Well, and it's just that, because with food too, it's like people will ask, like, well, don't judge what I'm eating, or to Amy, right? But like, I don't want to eat with you because you're going to see what it's like, she could care less like what you
don't care.
Like, I mean, and she likes all the food that we like.
Right.
That cheeseburger looks pretty good, It's like that she chooses not to eat that stuff, but she's not going to judge somebody else for eating what they want to eat,
right?
Unless they were like morbidly obese or something, where it's like,
then you're judging them.
Well, no, I'm saying if they're trying to like fight the diabetes or something, and it's like, you shouldn't be eating that because you're not healthy,
Right.
But not even not healthy, like, it's gonna make you sick, So it's just so funny, but it's so true too. And I have a question for you, because you're talking about it from a perspective of you're the one that's what are we calling it? The relationship is evolving. But like, have you ever noticed or had a situation where someone stopped being around you?
Yeah.
To where they were evolving, mainly,
Yeah. Isaac.
Yeah.
Isaac, like I said, man, we went from, and the first time I noticed it was when we went to a team dinner. Every year we do a party for the coaches. And this year we did it at, what was that place we went for your birthday that one year? The one on SPID, the bar, the big.
Oh, big, yes. Used to be Sears.
I forgot. It's Eddie's Tavern now or something,
yeah.
but I forgot. It was a real popular bar that's in like Austin or whatever, but they shut down. But
it's Eddie's now. You're right.
Yeah, and so we went there for team dinner. They had food, and nobody was getting wasted or doing anything silly, but everybody was drinking. And and he was drinking a Virgin Bloody Mary. Yeah. And that's when I first started noticing it. And then we would go out after that, and me and the guys would be taking shots and drinking. And then I noticed he's not drinking, like, not even a Virgin Bloody Mary, right? And it just got to the point where his interests, and I never really sat down and talked to him, but knowing him, knowing his faith journey, and seeing where my journey is now, right? Because to me, and not to get on a whole religious tip on this topic, but to me, I always, like, when I considered myself saved and I was doing what I needed to do in every other facet, alcohol was always a stronghold for me. It was always the thing that I would like, oh, well, I can get buzzed, or I can take a shot here or there, and it's okay. I'm not cussing. I'm not watching things I shouldn't watch. I'm being respectful here and that, like, but that was always a stronghold. And so when Isaac started doing that, he's doing what you're supposed to do, right? Everybody always says, oh, Jesus went and hung around with the prostitutes and the drunks and all the tax collectors. No. They hung around with him, and he didn't shoo them away. But he wasn't going into the strip club and preaching. Yeah. You know, he wasn't going into the brothels and preaching. Like, he was doing what he was sharing the gospel with people and not being exclusive about it, right? So yeah, there was a point where I was like, man, and I'm not gonna lie, like, I got convicted. I was like, man, he's doing these things, and like, he's walking the right way.
Because I'm gonna tell you, man, and I probably never told you this before, but like, you're not easy to be around. Like, when you were like in that mode, like if it was someone's birthday, like it was my birthday or your birthday, like I almost was like, oh man, okay, he's gonna buy shots. the snot, what is that stuff that you?
The rumple mix,
and it's gonna be all that. Like, it was like I was already expecting, like, he's going to, you know, that was, you know, so for someone that if they were trying to detach from that, you would have to say, I'm not going to do that. We're not going to go out for my birthday, or you go do your thing.
But see, and I would, and part of me was, and I wasn't doing it intentionally. I was, when I get drunk.
No, it was from a good, like, you want to have a good time. Right. You're having a good time.
I would badger people like I was that guy. Like, hey, come on, don't be a pussy.
And especially too, like, I remember a time it was your birthday, and it was to where, man, we got like tied it on too much, and to where it's like, we got to get home or drive. You know, this is years ago, but like, well, how did I let myself, you know, get there? That, you know, it's like, well, it's hanging out with you, and like, just peer pressure, you know. But it was just that I could see that, like, if it's someone that was going down that road, it's like, man, you got to be careful, because it's very easy to just get.
Well, and that's why people do disconnect, right? And that's why I have no animosity or bad blood or ill will or like feeling of like, I knew, if anything, I needed to step my game up. I knew I needed to change. And you know, looking back, it's funny, I wrote a post and then I deleted it, or I have it saved. I didn't write it, but you know, I was looking back at all my Snapchats and just all this drunkenness and belligerence, and I was always the life of a party, right? Like, but it was like, I look at myself and I'm like, so disappointed, you know, and it's hard to watch some of the videos, and other people would see them, and that was the thing. There was always, this is the hard part, right? Because even with Ashley, it was always like, you used to have so much fun, and I did. Yeah. Because I was acting a fool, and all your inhibitions go away, and you just, I mean, that's what I turned into, right? I used to say, I'm like Frank the Tank, you know, we all know that movie, except I'm not running around naked, you know? Tanks too. Yeah. But my thing was like, now I'm at a point in life where I don't want, you know, the biggest thing that I regret is drinking in front of my daughter, and not drinking, but getting drunk in front of her, I mean, having house parties. I can remember on my birthday where everybody's coming over here, and you know, we're just tying one off, and it's like 3 a.m, and I'm acting like like she wasn't here, and it was never like, don't get me wrong, I don't want to paint myself like a drunk. I just like to have fun. I like to party.
I know what you're saying too, man. One of the stories that is very similar to that reminds me, and we would do the river trip every year. We haven't gone in years, but when you're at the river, you pretty much drink all day. That's just
Yeah,
part of
that's
how that
what it
is.
is,
It's
right?
just, you're not driving anywhere. You're just relaxing in the river and drinking. And it wasn't until the kids told us one time that, like, well, I mean, y'all want to go to the river and get drunk and drink all day. And I was like, man, I guess I never thought about it that way. Like, they called us out,
Yeah.
And then, but what are we showing them? Like, they want to, like, because
Exactly.
then we even talked about it. It's like, hey, when you guys, have kids or whatever, we need to take them to the river. But like, I think about it now, it's like, I don't want to sit there and drink all day. Like, we can go fishing and like hang out and like enjoy ourselves.
Yeah.
But it's just a different time in our lives.
Well,
and you were only going to go with other people that wanted to do that too,
And that was one of the questions I was going to ask you was like, you have your different life phases, 20s, 30s, 40s. I mean, have you seen a like repetitive sequence of outgrowing people, or have you had an experience where you realize like you're no longer the same person, and in order to move forward, like you've got to change some things?
But more so not when it comes to people, just myself, right? And my journey with fitness and age and trying to stay young and for my job and be, physically fit and strong, and to where I had to stop. Like, for a long time, I stopped drinking just because when I would wake, even if I had just a few beers, the next day I wouldn't want to wake up early. And I'd like to wake up early and get my workout done first thing in the morning. As you know, I like the early morning workouts. So that brought me further from there. So it's okay, I just won't drink so that I could, even on the weekends, I could still wake up early, go do a workout, do what I need to do. And so it was more so that, and when I started cleaning up my diet and I started noticing changes, and so like, okay, it's working, I want to keep doing that. And as you get older, it was harder. So it was more so like those life ages groups that you were taught, 20s, 30s, 40s, to where it's like, man, I want to be stronger in my 40s than I was in my 30s, leaner, whatever that is. So, and of course it was easier for me because in my house, my wife did all her own meal preps, and she ate pretty healthy, or really healthy, so or clean. So it wasn't hard. It wasn't like, that would be a hard part if it's like you and your spouse are not on the same page. Like, one wants to eat real clean and the other wants to eat, cheeseburgers every day. Like, that could be, it's going to be hard, it's going to be a struggle. So it's like being on the same page. Like, we're each other's biggest advocate, to where, I'm her biggest fan. Like, what if she wants to meal prep? Like, I'll go buy the stuff. Like, I'll go, how can I help, and she's the same way. So, not so much with people. I mean, other than the example that I gave, that where we have friends that pretty much every evening, their days off, they're going out and having dinner together and maybe a few drinks probably, and definitely on the weekends, but hanging out all the time. And I miss that, like, fellowship, friendship, but I also can't eat like at a restaurant every night because I gotta make my food, and I go train at night, so I don't get out till 9:00 most nights, and so it's just different, So more so because of that, because of my habits, because of my patterns, not because of those people that I can't be around them. I miss the friendship, a lot of times.
Yeah, I think that's the thing is a lot of times the good friends, they won't pressure you, right? They will accept what you're doing. They won't take that feeling of they think they're better. I think a lot of times when people pass judgment on others, it's like it's a deflection, right, of their own feelings. It's a defense mechanism. It's, oh, well, these people aren't doing that anymore, they must think that they're better than us, and blah blah blah, because in reality they know that what they're doing maybe isn't the best. And I've experienced it with some family, with some very close friends, with people that I love, and I still love them. I have no anger towards them. That's something truly, like, that's something that God has really helped me with in this last 6 months, I would say, is just any resentment or anger. And because I would always say, oh, I don't care or whatever, but then deep down, like in my heart, it would get like I hear somebody's name and I'd just be like, oh, like, you, and so then you just finally got to realize, like, man, that's not healthy, right? So I asked God to remove all that, and it was like overnight that He did.
That's good, because there's really no room for that. It's good for what?
There's too much energy to be spent, like I said, on the positive things that you could be pouring into people, that you could be pouring into your family, than to waste time. And I see it, man. I see people in their 40s that are like talking. And people will probably know what I'm talking about if I say it, but oh well. It's funny because there'll be like a female, and she'll be like, oh, how those haters don't like my stuff, but I see you watching me. And, you know, they make the post on Facebook, and I'm like, who cares? Like, we're old. We're 40, we're 40. We're not 16. We're supposed to be setting the tone, setting the example for our kids. We're supposed to stop worrying about all that drama, you know? And, but, you know, I think the biggest thing that I've always kind of preached and promoted is like, you know, there is no tomorrow, right? I love that quote from Rocky 3. It's, you know, him and Apollo. Rocky don't want to train. We've talked about it before on the podcast. But it's true. You cannot grow and stay the same. There's no way. You have to change. Whether it's like you talk about it in diets, you talk about it in physical. We're talking about the physical now, right? Like if you're working out and you're not growing, you're not getting the result, then you got to change up the workout. Yeah. If you're dieting and the diet's not working for it, maybe you got to drop some calories and you know, clean up your diet a little bit. You know, if it's your professional career and you're not promoting, you know, in our department, all you got to do is read some books. But if you're that guy that says, oh, I'm going to study, and then you wait the last month and you read the books like once or twice and you're never on the top 10, like, well, that's something you got to change, right? You cannot continue to stay the same and do the same things and expect that you're just all of a sudden going to be this person that you want to be. And it doesn't
even have to be for promoting, just like even the rank that you're in, you just want to be the best at that, whatever that rank is. Like you can immerse yourself in like, you know, books and workshops and conferences and like get good at that. Like you don't have to worry about it. I'm just like, I'm gonna be good at what I'm doing.
Because
there's some people that are just not interested in promoting. That's okay, because we need good firefighters at every rank, right? Like from every one of them.
People take pride in their positions.
They can't just, everything can't be like the leap like the a temporary, like I'm just here until I promote to the next. It's not a means to an end. It's like we might have people that are in that rank that want to do that do great at it.
Yeah, there's I had wrote this down. You can't grow and stay the same. Yeah, and then you can't grow without leaving some things behind. Right. And I think that's the hardest thing for us. I know it's been the hardest thing for me. Yeah. I've always worked out. I've always trained hard. I've always done my best to be the best family man I can. But as I've gotten older, I'm appreciating that time more. Time is fleeting, and I can see it with my daughter.
You see it with the children,
you know. Kids. And so now, where I used to focus so much on training, it's like, man, I put that on the back burner. I'd rather go spend a week with my family. And because of that, I haven't been competing, because I'm also not going to compete when I'm not training at the level I need to be training. You know what it takes, yeah. And so it's hard because, man, part of me still wants to get in that fire. And I've been talking about maybe competing, but the more and more I look at it, it's just with running a business, with doing the podcast, with doing the gym, being a captain, you know, in the fire department. There's being a dad, being there at my daughter's games. Yeah, man, I'm putting myself on the back burner because, you know what, I've accomplished a lot in my life, but I never want to look back and say I could have been a better dad. Yeah. And so
you don't get a redo on that.
You don't get a second chance. Yeah. You know, and that's why, you know, sometimes you got to leave things behind. And for me, it's people, it's activities, and, you know, the biggest thing, like I said, with my faith walk, that I've been talking about lately, because it's been so much on my mind, is really coming to grips with fully submitting and surrendering to the will of God and being obedient. Because before, I would say I was fully surrendered, and there's a saying, right? You can, you know that Jesus is God, but is he Lord over your life, right? Because there's something about fully surrendering yourself, your will, to the will of the Father, that, man, it is rejuvenating. It's joyous. It's powerful. But it's the easiest thing to do, because you have exactly what you're supposed to do right in front of you. You open the Bible and all you got to do is read, and it tells you what to do. You know, the 10 Commandments. I mean, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not covet, you know, another man's wife. You know, it talks about lust, it talks about fornication, it talks about all the sins of the flesh that we love, the drunkenness, right? It's an outline. So it's the easiest thing to do. It's not like you got to work hard to find out what the correct formula is. But it's also the hardest thing to do, to lay everything down and say, let my life be yours. I'm going to let you take full control, and I'm going to be obedient to the will of you, right? Because like I said, for the longest time, I didn't do that. The longest time I called myself a Christian and still went to the bars and partied. For the longest time, I called myself a Christian and still looked at things I shouldn't be looking at. And to say that it's easy that'd be a lie. You know, it's the hardest battle that I've ever fought. Harder than any financial struggle, harder than going through a divorce, harder than any battle that me and Ashley have had within our marriage. The hardest thing is letting go of what you used to do. But I know that it's going to allow me to move forward and be somebody that he wants me to be, that I can't even see right now. Like, I can't even forecast how great I can be. And I'm not talking about a position. I'm not talking about like a status. Yeah. I'm talking about just looking back on my life, and when everything's said and done, being able to see how many people that I was able to help, because I finally allowed him to use me in the way that he wanted to use me. But that takes cutting off relationships. That takes giving up old habits. And, we talk about outgrowing people. There's some people that, if every time that you hear their name, it's just spite and vengeance and anger and wrath, then maybe you just need to not think about them, yeah. Pray for them and let it be. But there's family that I just don't talk to. And I love. That's the crazy thing. That's when you can love somebody, but be 100% content with not having anything to do with them. And that is something that wisdom, maturity has allowed me to do. And since I've been able to do that, I've found so much peace, because I'm not worried about what they're saying or what they're thinking or what they said about me to somebody else, or, I've got to, coddle their feelings, and I've got to step on eggshells when I'm around them and not offend them. I'm free, I'm free from all of that.
Yeah. It has to do also with, we like to be in control, and when you submit yourself the way that you're describing, you lose all that. You lose control. Yeah,
absolutely.
We think that we're like controlling how our life is going.
Nothing. We control nothing
outside of your control.
The last thing I kind of wanted to mention in this, I know it's going a little bit, but the last thing I kind of wanted to mention was, in order to grow, you have to surround yourself with new circles, right? I always respected you, and I always looked up to you as a leader, because from the day one, there was always something I saw differently about you, as far as the way you held yourself, as a driver, and then I was as a captain, and then a battalion chief. And I tell people all the time, I'm fortunate now with my battalion chief, but I always said, you were the best battalion chief I ever worked under, because you would literally leave at 8:00 at night, in the morning, and not get back till 8:00 at night. You were never just in the office sitting around. You were always, and Ashley asked me, she goes, "You don't ever want to be a chief?" And I said, after seeing what Cody's got to deal with, knowing, cause I see Cody, and I mean, you're basically you have more power, but you have less control of the crews, so to speak. And you're basically running errands. If you're good, yeah, you're serving people. You're serving,
facilitating. I used to call it facilitating.
Yeah,
getting them what they need.
Exactly. But you know what? That could be, hey, I need batteries for this.
Yeah, we tried to put some processes in to help that kind of stuff, because you really want to be spending that time talking about the organization, figuring out talking about training, doing things that have a little more value to operations, right? But it really did. If you were going to do it right, you would be gone all day, and it's Someone told me one time, I remember when I first promoted to battalion chief, and it was like a senior captain, and I was young, when I promoted battalion chief. He says, man, that's awesome, you promoted so young, and now you can just chill.
Oh, you've told me this. Yeah.
And I said, and I stopped. It kind of like the comment
Threw
like
you
caught
off,
me off
right?
guard, and I'm like, do you think I did this to just chill? Like I don't understand. Like,
I don't get it.
Yeah, like
I
that's
don't
not
get it.
why I became a battalion chief. Wasn't to just chill, but that was really, and that it's kind of a cultural thing we had for a long time. Was it same thing with the truck company culture? Was like used to be like, oh, you could be on truck one and you just chill.
You don't do
get
nothing.
canceled before you even get to the call, or any truck company or what have you. So that has been the hardest thing to try to change. Because it's been years and years of that type of mindset, and you see it now. There's a lot of young battalion chiefs, and they're very motivated. They're willing to go out there and I knew as a captain and I had a good battalion chief, but it was still like I knew how hard it was as a captain to get things that you needed or to put stuff together. So as a battalion chief, I said, I'm going to facilitate these captains with everything they need so that, if they want to train, they want to do something, they need to reserve something, like let me help them do that to accomplish.
And that's what makes a great chief.
Yeah.
And
so that was kind of the mindset that I had. That was where I went down, that road of like, let me get these guys what they need because they're trying to train next shift. They're going to need this equipment. I'm going to pick it up for them, make sure they have a place reserved or, whatever the situation was. So, and there's a lot of battalion chiefs that do that now, but at the time it really was it was easy to stand out because people weren't willing to like go
do those things. It was kind of unheard of.
Yeah.
But that's why I always, kind of latched on to you, because once we started working out together, I saw this guy that didn't have to, but he was, right? You didn't have to be.
Oh, there's so much autonomy. I mean, I could do and there's the thing that now we have shift commanders, but at the time we didn't. It was the battalion chief position used to be you could do as much or as little.
Right. As you
Hence
wanted.
the chill part. You could do as much or as little, and nobody was going to be checking on you to see how you were, how and what you were doing. So if I wanted to just chill, I mean, then you could do that, and some did. Yeah. They would come in the morning. Don't bother me. I'll call you in the morning, see if you need anything. All right.
But those are the guys that, like I said, that type of personality is not somebody, even now, like that's not somebody I want to be around. No. Even now, I've got guys that I work with that are great, and that my crew is great, but everybody has their idea about fitness. Sure. And some guys do things different ways, and then some just don't see it as important. But every other day I'm working out with the same guys from my station. Those will show up. And that's the thing I've always tried to do in any facet that I've been in is try to surround myself with the best. Yeah. Right? Try to surround myself with the best so that I can be better, because in order to grow, like, you need to find somebody that is an expert or find somebody that knows or that's been there. Because you can't, it's hard to just get there on your own. I mean, there's a lot of resources out there, but or whatever it is, if it's, maybe you want to stop drinking, or maybe you want to learn about, God, or you want to learn the craft or whatever, like you got to find somebody that can kind of help you to get there. Yeah. Right. That's super important. And I want to be that for other people. Yeah. And I realize now, like I said, I look back on some of the videos, it was just yesterday or the day before, and man, I'm just like, I can hear it in my voice, and I see it, and I'm just like, people like that guy. People like that guy. Sure. And that was the guy that everybody wanted to hang out with. People
like cocaine. That don't make it good.
What I'm saying. That make it right. But it goes back to, like, we talk about the negative, and it's like, we've talked about it before. You make a positive post on Facebook, or you make a post about God on Facebook, and you get like 10 likes. Yeah. You make a post dogging or making jokes, and I got wrapped up into that because I would see, and I would be entertaining people, and we as human beings, if we're living by the flesh, we get off to satisfying other people. We do like we like attention in the sense of like doing things and getting a reaction.
Well, in social media, there's a whole other dynamic to it now. Now studies are showing that it's like there's not even the dopamine from the actual, and we just for sports, posting stuff about sports. The people don't get the dopamine hit that they get from actually accomplishing or doing whatever that feat is, whether it's scoring a touchdown or hitting a home run or whatever. There's more of a dopamine from when you post it and you get the positive
likes.
comments
That's
on it.
crazy,
It's not even
right?
from doing the action. It's
No.
not the feeling that you get.
No.
It's like, oh, that was cool. But now I get to post it, and now I
And
get
now
to have all these
everybody's-
people just
yes.
liking on it. I get more people get more from that
Yep.
than they do from that. So it's like,
Yep.
what does that mean? Like, where is this going?
Well, that's
Like,
why you
if-
see all these girls posting selfies all the time, because it's
Yeah,
like,
a lot
I
of
mean,
attention,
and I hate to say it, but like, it is. It's that they're getting satisfaction from that, and whether they like to, oh, I just like to post for my other girlfriend. Bullshit. Send it in a text message.
Yeah,
Like,
attention.
you don't
Yeah,
need
yeah, attention.
you don't need to post it to all social media.
Yeah.
But that's anything. And like even the other day, I posted, Cynthia. Shout out to my baby girl. She got CCISD November
Congratulations. I
athlete,
saw her,
female
yeah.
athlete of the month for
Yeah.
all of middle school. But the whole thing about that was like, I posted it. I even said, excuse me, but I'm gonna brag.
Yeah.
like,
And you're proud of her-
and
of
I'm
your
proud
child.
of
I
her.
get
and,
it, man.
And people
Yeah,
are
yeah.
responding, but it feels good, like to
Yeah.
see other people comment and say good things. It's like if you posted something that you did, you're doing it because you want to show people that you did it, right?
Sure.
You wouldn't be posting it if you posted it and then nope, we got 0 responses. I mean, I broke the internet when I won my first UFC fight, and I was like checking every other like 30 minutes. Oh shit! Now like 800 people like it. Now it was crazy.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to it, man, I think when you outgrow people, the right people will join you later in life.
Yeah.
Right? Because this is the other thing we have to realize. And this is where I was at and where I am at is people grow at different rates.
Oh yeah.
And I think the hardest
in
thing,
your own family, marriage. And
oh
everything
yeah,
else, too.
I mean, and me and Ashley are a perfect example with our faith walk, right? Like I know a lot more. She's not where I was. And it's been a little bit of a struggle, but now we found a balance, and it's awesome. And part of that was just me having enough like patience and grace to let God do His thing and not force things on her, right?
Yeah, you don't want to force it.
But the other thing is, I've been that guy, and I read this earlier on Facebook, but and this guy was like basically talking shit to people for not meal prepping or something, and he's a very well-known person in our community. I won't even say what he does because he's that well-known that you'll probably know who he is. I know you know this guy. But I'm like, dude, you used to be fat. Like you used to be fat, and you're over here talking about like making it seem like, and you're still not in the best shape. Like you've lost a lot of weight, but you're not walking around like you're looking like freaking, you got a 6-pack and stuff. Like, come on, bro. Like, and on top of that, you're preaching about God and all this other stuff. And I'm just like, but I used to be that guy.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's like, I think we have to realize, and now I've gotten to a point where I'm like, holy crap. Like I used to have that whole Goggins mentality.
Yeah.
Right. Quit being a bitch. We're all fucking tired. Wake up, work out. Who cares? Suck it up.
Boats.
Yeah. Who's going to carry the fucking boats? Right. Like we all get into that like mentality. And what was the thing? Nobody cares.
Yeah.
Nobody cares. Work harder. Right. Now what I realize is like, I still live by that. Yeah. I still have that mentality.
Yeah. That's okay. Yeah.
But
you can't.
I can't expect everybody to have that mentality. Now, if I'm a training captain, I can't expect all the cadets to have that
You hold the
mentality,
standard.
That's different.
Yeah.
But as far as like people and where they're at in their journeys, it's like, dude, as long as you're trying to be better, we can be in the same circle.
Yeah.
But if you're going to be that person that refuses to move forward, then I don't got anything in common with you, because I'm trying to be a better dad. I'm trying to be a better husband. I'm trying to be a better man of God, first and foremost. I'm trying to be a better firefighter. Like if you're going to be part of my crew, like you're going to train, number one, but you better keep up, because I'm constantly reading. I'm constantly searching. I'm constantly practicing my technique. And I'm constantly working out.
Yeah.
And if you want your captain to be a 45, 46-year-old captain that's smoking your 20-year-old ass, then by all means, but that's embarrassing.
Yeah.
Like I'm looking for the guys that are younger coming up, and I got one right now.
Yeah.
That are younger coming up and that are making me step up and keep. It shouldn't be the other way around.
You're pushing each other.
But that's my thing, is like those are the people I want to surround myself with, right?
100%.
And they may not be there right now, but they may get there at some point. And we have to understand that is a possibility. Just because somebody's not ready right now doesn't mean they aren't. And when they do start making those changes, we should encourage them and not break them down. Because I think we forget where we were, and we can get, and I know I was there. I was that guy. Now, half the time I fought back because guys would give me shit. And it was more that conviction of me doing the right things that they weren't willing to do. And so I would fight back with negativity. But in reality, now I see it, and it was just a defense mechanism on their part, you know. But, you know, ultimately, I've always said it. I think that the thing that's truly, truly sad in life is looking at somebody and watching them just not fulfill their potential. I mean, in anything, whether it's a career, whether it's their personal life, you know, having vices that are holding them back from being the mom that they could be, from being the friend that they could be, from being the person they could be, having, you know, trauma or shame or guilt or whatever it is, prevent them from being somebody better. Right. You know, and so for me, it's like, it's not easy, you know, it's going to be hard. But we say it all the time. Nothing worthwhile is easy. No. And so, you know, you just gotta, you know, push. But, you know, just to give you guys some final takeaways from the podcast, today, you know, I want everybody to realize this, because I've struggled with this. Outgrowing relationships at times is a sign of progress, not betrayal, right? Sometimes I think that can get conflated to where it's like you start to be demonized because you're stepping away from certain people or certain organizations or certain clubs or gyms even, right? But if you're doing it to better yourself, then by all means, like, let them talk, right? Because you're allowed to evolve.
Oh, yeah.
That's the thing. Like, you're allowed to evolve. You are not, nobody should ever tell you you're good enough and you can't do any more than what you've done. Like, you're never too old to keep progressing. Yeah. Right. And then the last thing I want to leave everybody with is remember, the right people will grow with you, or they will rejoin you at some point. Just because you step away from them now doesn't mean that you can't meet up with them later. But if they don't choose to change the ways or their way of living or their way of being, then you have to have enough courage to stand aside and say, no, I'm not. This is where I'm backwards. At. I ain't looking. You can catch up, but I ain't turning back for you. I've done that enough. Because like I said, all that does in the end is drain you of potentially putting more energy into people that will use it. Right. So thank you guys for tuning in today. T, you got anything left, man?
The only thing that I would just say to your point is that if someone's distancing themselves from you, then take a good look in the mirror. Maybe there's something that you're doing that's holding you back personally. And because we're looking at it from the, you know, of us getting better, but sometimes, you know, there's people around you. It's like, that might be that person that's distancing themselves from you. There might be something that you need to change so that you can catch up to them and, you know, move forward with them.
I think, man, not to add on too much more, but I think it's human nature to put up that defense mechanism of like blaming other people, right? Finger pointing. And I've seen it, and I say it all the time. I in that message that I referred to earlier that I took down that I'll probably end up posting at some point was basically saying, like, don't be mad at me because you're getting upset by the things I'm typing. When I put it on social media, and this is funny, I've heard people literally say, he's talking about me. I'm like, wasn't even thinking about you. But then I hear down the road every time Roger posts, they say it's about, no, you know what it is? It's that you're being convicted and your heart's being pricked Every time I say something about the way you're living, and if the shoe fits, you got to wear it. Yeah. But you don't like wearing it, so you're trying to kick it off and blame it on me, right? Yeah. And so that's the thing I say. If you, anytime somebody says something and it stirs you up a little bit, take a deep breath, slow down, and say, is there any justification to what they're saying? Like, is it right? Because that's the only time you're going to be able to truly grow, is when you stop, you look at yourself. We always talk about analyzing over and over on the fire ground. You stop, you analyze, where am I at in life? What are the things that I'm doing that I shouldn't be doing, or that if I cut out, I could be doing better? And then you got to be willing to like change. Yeah. You know, or else you're going to be, and I see it all the time, man. I got people on my Facebook. They're still going out to the bars, and they're still posting themselves getting drunk. I'm talking people older than me. Yeah. And now, and they was, oh, well, you're judging me. Well, yeah, now I am, because you're like 50 years old with kids, and you're doing like, dude, at what point is enough? You know? So hopefully you guys got something from this. If you didn't, well, then you just wasted like an hour of your life. But hopefully you took something away from this. And, you know, I encourage all you guys out there that are listening. You know, we started this podcast to raise the bar and not accept mediocrity. We bring people on this podcast that are doing exceptional or have done exceptional things in their lives. And if you're listening to this podcast, it's because you want to be part of that elite group of people that's looking to stand above the average. And it doesn't take much. It just takes effort, and it takes you focusing and being determined to get 1% better every day, because those little victories will add up. And at the end of the day, you're going to look back on your life and you're going to be damn proud of what you've produced. So keep on going, you know, keep on changing, never be satisfied. And as always, charge that line.